I'm Dan Evans, and I'm joined today by actor and singer Cooper Grodin in his Manhattan apartment for the first edition of Couch Conversations.
Thank you for having me as the first couch conversation.
Where did this couch come from? Any significance to this couch? And is it the central hub of that social activity?
This is my napping couch.
Mm.
This couch that's a good question actually. When I got this futon actually, my sister said, you've graduated college, what do you think you're doing still with a futon? And I just thought, well, it's got wood and you can use it for different purposes. I think it's great. My mom got me this blanket, and I was just saying, you and I have sat here a lot.
Yeah, we have spent some time here, definitely. And right over there is your piano, and a lot of time has been spent over there too.
Yeah.
So, let's talk about this here. You're a singer, you're an actor, you're a musician, you play the piano, you play the guitar. Where do you see those three skill sets intersecting now in your career? And what came first?
I was actually just thinking about this. What came first? That's a simple question. Piano. My mother was adamant about my sister and I taking lessons. When we both sort of felt we had grown out of it, she allowed us to stop, but within 6 months made me get back to it. In fact, I have a Billy Joel book over here, which she got me when I was 15 and insisted I learn how to play it or teach myself how to play it, which got me back into it, and I never stopped since. The piano turned into voice lessons. The voice lessons turned eventually into acting lessons. Somewhere all that got mixed together into the music theater world. But what we're seeing now in music theater is having one skill is no longer enough. Having two is no longer enough. I go in for shows now where I went in for a really big callback where I had to play the guitar, be a mover, sing, act. Then after my final callback, they said to me, actually, we're going to go with someone who can do all that, but also play the saxophone. So, you can't have enough skill these days.
It wasn't enough. You recently got the opportunity to play the iconic role of George Surratt in Zoetic Stage's production of Sunday in the Park with George. So talk to me about playing that role, and what did you take away from being a part of that production?
First of all, it was an honor. A profoundly humbling experience. I'm in love with Florida right now. You just walk outside and it's nice. The company couldn't have treated me better. And most importantly, this is a role that I've been waiting to do from day one. I finally felt ready to give it a shot, and I had a phenomenal team around me. And of course, that role was originated by Mandy. So I've sort of been waiting to try to bring that character to fruition. And I had actually an amazing experience with Mandy a few years ago. I was doing a show off Broadway here, and he came backstage and said, it's an amazing thing watching you. I feel like I'm watching myself when I was younger. And I said, Mandy, that's so ironic because when I walk on stage, I'm trying to not imitate you.
Yeah.
And it was just one of those perfect exchanges. And I forced myself to not watch him when I knew I booked this, because I really needed to find my version of George, because that's the only version that there should be, which is your version of George. It was just phenomenal, and I'd love to work for them again.
How did that, just over the course of the production, how did it evolve for you?
For this particular project, went out of my way to not show up ready to go. I needed to be an open vessel and fluid. So the creation of the character organically happened in the rehearsal process with my director, who actually gave me a lot of freedom. In fact, only really stepped in when he needed to modify my instincts. However, in this particular situation, I had the luxury of working with Kimberly Dorian Burns, who is a force of nature. And so my best moments are when I'm simply responding to her in the moment. And I just worked off her and got my cues from her and hopefully met her where she was. And I think our finest moments were something I'll never forget.
Oh, that's great. It's great to be able to hold on to something like that, to work on a performance and feel so good about it coming through. And this brings me to, you got to play another iconic role when you recently, in the last few years, you played the Phantom in the 25th anniversary touring production of Phantom of the Opera.
Yeah.
Very challenging, each in their own right, tackling each of those roles. What was it like? What kind of could you bring experience-wise when you played that role to just the experience of trying to play George Serrato, another iconic role?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. Oddly enough, the two are quite similar. They're both genius artists that are extremely introverted, attempting to connect with the world and society, but cannot because of who they are. It's not going to happen. And ultimately, not to give it away, they all end up alone. It was a similar process. You know, The Phantom we did was the first new production ever, which is still running actually. So there are actually 2 productions running, the National Tour and Broadway Company. So my job was to take the direction and the image of my large creative team. So that was really the difference there. With Phantom, there were an immense amount of conversations and opinions and collaboration. This George that I just did was more of, let's see what happens instinctually, and we'll change some things if we need to. But no matter what role you're tackling, it's a similar experience. There's a team of people with an idea, there is a script, you have your instincts, you work with what's there, and you roll with it.
I know that you studied opera, and eventually you got into musical theater.
Yeah.
How did that transition take place?
Yeah. The transition happened the way everything seems to happen in my life. I seem to have a tendency to explore and try to remain open. And if a door opens, I check it out. And if it feels right, I sort of hang around. The technical answer is, I graduated from my master's at the Manhattan School of Music, and I found myself at Actors Connection, taking classes and meeting agents and music directors and directors, and I got signed to an agency.
Right.
And that's that. The rest was history. I mean, I was suddenly in the music theater world.
Right.
To be more technical and specific about it, I have a strange fach, as we call it. That's where the voice sits. I am a very high baritone or a very low tenor, which in the traditional operatic world is a strange genre. However, that genre lends itself extremely well to music theater, where you need a large 2-octave range and this middle, feeling comfortable in the middle.
Part of being an actor is traveling, and you've traveled all over this country in a series of productions that we've mentioned already. Does the traveling life suit you, or do you miss home? Do you crave the comforts of home and want to be back here in New York when you're on the road?
Yeah. You know, I'm born and raised here. I always come back here. And with that said, I love traveling. You know, I've spent a lot of time in Tel Aviv and Jerusalem, Shanghai, and Vancouver, and probably about 30 cities in this country. I've been on the road most of my career, if you do the math. I love it. I love to go out there. Everywhere you go, there's a gym and there's people looking to connect and there's art to be made. Everywhere you go, every corner of this world. And I just try to stay open to it, and I think I'm successful at it. I mean, in my contracts are gym memberships, you know what I mean? Like, and there's always a supermarket, and there's always people looking, having a good time. So it's all good to me. I love leaving, I love coming.
But also, isn't it a great thing about when you see the world, you see more of it, it starts to inform you, you feel like you understand more about humanity in general. You engage with people from all over the place.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if they're just, from Oklahoma or from, like you said, somewhere in China.
Everyone is looking for the same stuff. And with social media, which is this profound new phenomenon, I actually remain in contact with people regularly all over the world, which is kind of cool. And I occasionally cross paths with them because everyone seems to find themselves in New York. So someone from Holland who saw me in Shanghai shows up in New York and we have a coffee. It's a small world now.
Thank you very much for taking the time. Really, this is great. And I look forward to seeing what next, what all the projects that come along in the next year or two. and seeing what you do.
So not the only one.
Oh, there you go. There you go. So stay tuned for more episodes of Couch Conversations. Thanks again for joining us today, and we'll see you soon.